What's going on, YouTube? Carfi King here. So today, guys, I wanted to bring you my Uzuri deck tech for at least for the Rosetta form. I know Worlds is already finished, and things are a little bit winding down, but there's still quite a few battle hardens. I know callings coming up and things like that, and so I just wanted to bring you guys what one of the decks that I always consider playing, which is Uzuri. She was my first hero. She was the first hero that I topped an RTN with. Back in February. This is obviously my first year of competitive play. I didn't start CC till February. But I've been playing Uzuri and Blitz the whole time until February. But yeah, no, I really love Uzuri. I think she kind of really embodies kind of like what I love in Assassin, and I wanted to show you guys the what I would kind of play for for Uzuri going forward. So here's the deck, and I will obviously post the deck list in the comments. I don't know if I do have a matchup guide, but I got to definitely fix it up. I need to add more into add the Rosetta heroes. I got to change up the board for Enigma and things like that. So I will be updating that, so you'll always have the link to my latest. And you should see that board change probably by the end of this week. You'll see the matchup guide change, but I kind of want to go over through the deck with you guys and kind of like the choices and what we would be playing. Obviously Uzuri is our hero. Her ability is a reaction, and what the thing I like about her reaction is it always scares your opponent. Obviously if your opponent knows what's going on, they know what's going on. But Uzuri's ability to take a stealth card off the combat chain, swap it with a powerful 2-for-6 type of card, that's one of the abilities I felt, because your opponent just doesn't know it's coming. And what I've found is that the more that I've been playing her, especially watching Shoma play with it at Pro Tour Amsterdam and whatnot, I really learned that it's okay to IP yourself, which is intellect penalty, meaning holding cards back. It's okay if your opponent knows that you're going to be doing the swap ability. It's okay to hold certain cards in your hand, because again, you're an assassin. You're waiting for the opportunity to strike. You're waiting to get around their armor, evade blocking, shred their blocks, and things like that. And just her ability of being able to go into stealth and then swap it for 2 or 6. Your opponent has to choose whether they want to guard. Sometimes you don't give them a choice. Sometimes they have you throw isolate out there, and then they can only give you one card, maybe some armor, and then you force them to have the D react or not. If they don't have the D react, then you're sitting pretty. So again, she just swaps it out as an attack reaction. Very strong ability. Going to the rest of the deck, obviously we want to run black. I'm going to go through the equipment first, and then we'll go through the rest of the deck. Black Tech Whisperers, I call them my Nike boots, or my Black Air Forces. They are one of the best leg armor that you can run. It's a 1 block throughout the game, but because we have quite a few cards in here that do make silver, we do have the ability to recur these Black Tech Whisperers, pay 2 silver, bring them back from the grave, equip them again, have that extra 1 block. So it's really good, especially if you get the value out of them early, get a nice block in early, like block a breakpoint early, and then once you have 2 silver, you're able to go ahead and immediately buy them back. It's really good. But the attack reaction is great, because then your opponent has to worry about if you're going for a big turn with Uzuri where you like overextend, like you're playing a death touch from Arsenal, your opponent kind of like underblocks it or no blocks it, then you pop the black text and then go into a codex or something like that. It's just really, really, really strong feat. So definitely arguably probably my favorite leg armor in the game. I'm an assassin. I love everything. Flick Knives, obviously that's the staple on her. This card wins you the game. You really don't use Flick Knives until the end of the game. which is where if your opponent's at 2 life, you just flick a knife, they take a damage, they're down to 1. Effectively, flick knives tells your opponent that they're starting out at 38 life instead of 40 life. That's what I see out of flick knives. And you just want to flick your daggers, and hit them in the end game. That's why when you're playing against Uzuri and your opponent goes sub 10 life, Uzuri is definitely in control, and it's even all assassins, even new as well. But that's where we really rule the game, is once we grind down the opponent, once we get them to sub 10 life, our deck gets stronger. We get stronger the lower the opponent's life is. That's one thing I love about flick knives, and just in general for assassin, is that I feel as an assassin, the lower the life, the stronger we get. Tunic is the national assassin chess piece of our career. Basically, you have to do that. And then obviously I'm running Spider's Bite as the main weapon of choice until we get a new dagger. I think Spider's Bite is probably the best one for Uzuri to use. The other dagger I'm running, as far as the equipment go, is Scale Peeler. Now you can there was discussion. You can run Nerf Scalpel. I know some people have a Orbital class, but the reason why I'm running Scale Peeler over Nerf Scalpel is because against some of these aggro decks, into my area personally is very brute heavy and very Runeblade heavy, and what Aurora and Viscerai, and I'm a Viscerai player too, but they like to they want to save their 4 or 5 card hands, block with some armor here and there, or help cover breakpoints. And what Scale Peeler really does is Scale Peeler takes away their ability to really get effective blocking or blocking at all out of their armor. If they have, if their armor is pinged at 1 and they want to get an extra block value, well, Scale Peeler basically tells them no. So being able to lock certain aggro decks or other decks that out of their ability to block with armor, I think is really, really strong and really helps us get stuff in, because then it forces them to use more cards from their hand, or just make them consider things they want to consider. A lot of what you want to do with Assassin is you want your opponent to make bad decisions, and then you want to react off of those decisions. When they do something, then you react off of that. So you're constantly trying to put them in awkward spots where they make an awkward decision, and then you have 2 to 3 avenues that you can take after, if depending on what decision they make. So that's why I want a Scale Peeler. Just want a Scale Peeler for that piercing one to go in. I didn't find nerfs. I've never really found Nerf Scalpel to be great, because it does only hit reactions, and because it only hits reactions, they can still, with Uzuri, her power ceiling is 6. We don't throw in 3 for 2 for 7s or anything like that, unless we throw an enlightened, face up enlightened strike. So really, Nerf Scalpel, they can still block 2, then play a Fate Foreseen or a a Fate Foreseen or a Sink Below, and then cover up 6, and then bam, they covered up the whole attack. So the Nerf Scalpel really never came into play, and I've just gotten a lot more usage out of Scale Peeler, depending on again, the situation and what dagger I want to use. Because what you effectively use your daggers for as an assassin, especially with Uzuri, what you use your daggers for, you use your daggers to open up your opponent for punishment, open up your opponent to put them in awkward blocking situations. If your opponent blocks your dagger, then you're in good hands. You're winning. You got block value out of your opponent. Hopefully it's from their hand, but then you got block out of you got a block value. Now it makes the rest of your turn hopefully a lot easier to sneak in disruption, sneak in some type of hit. So that's effectively how you want to utilize your dagger. The other pieces of equipment, we got Balance of Justice and we have Crown of Providence. Again, I'm in a Runeblade and I'm in a brute heavy area. Balance of Justice for me makes a lot of sense, especially with again, we have brutes, they have Blood Rush Battle. This is great into them. When you're playing against Aurora, they do play Thunder Valley and whatnot. So if they do flash in a double Thunder Thunder Valley, or they have like a Thunder Valley snatch turn, this card is still great into that. You get your block value out of it, and then if they do ended up hitting with snatch because you need to save something to throw disruption back, then it's like, okay, cool, well maybe I can block this, whatnot, or pop the Balance of Justice, draw a card, so that you don't feel like you've just they've time walked you in any or things like that. And then I have Van Brace of Determination. You never forget your Van Braces. For purely for Enigma. These only come in against Enigma. Enigma is not not big in my area, but I wanted to have I wanted to have this just prepared. And if you yourself have a lot of Enigmas in your area, then you definitely want to just keep your Van Braces on you. This is a really good attack reaction. You can use it on a dagger. You can use it on a lot of your other stuff. So it's just an awesome card. And then I'm using Vel Respirator as my arcane barrier piece. So I bring this in against Runeblade. I bring it in against even against Verdance, but there's not not really Verdance players. I feel like I'm like one of like 2 Verdance players in the area. But we got Arcane Barrier 1, Spell Void 1. The reason why we do Vel Respirator is against like Viscerai, I want to bring Scale Peeler into the matchup, which is why I didn't put Arcane Lantern into the deck. Usually I would run 1 dagger plus Arcane Lantern and whatnot, but I just felt like, again, Kano is not a deck that I face a lot. Kano has heavily dropped in popularity across the board, and Kano is like almost non-existent in any tournament that I'm playing in locally or around me. So I'm just taking that gamble that, hey, I'm not going to really run into any Kanos, so there's no need for me to really bring any more than AB1, Spell Void 1 into a Runeblade matchup, something like that. If you want to, you can consider, like, for instance, dropping down maybe on Spreading Plague and adding in, or dropping a Balance of Justice if you find that the matchups aren't appropriate for that, and then you can run more of the Spell Void equipment. You can run the Arcane Lantern, you can run the other Widow gear. If you in your area that you need to bring more AB than just AB1, then I would say look at cutting Balance of Justice, running Crown of Providence as your main headpiece, and probably might be cutting Spreading Plague as well. Just if that's the case. Going through the deck itself now, obviously commanding. Getting your staples out the way, right? Command and Conquer, Enlighten Strike. You're the two, arguably the 2 strongest generics in the game. You want to, as an assassin, I want to threaten all aspects of you. I want to threaten your hand, ripping cards from your hand. I want to rip cards from your arsenal. Rip cards off the combat, rip cards down on the combat chain. I just want to make sure that I can attack all areas. So we definitely like Command and Conquer in here. It's a 2 for 6, and we can swap it in off of Uzuri's ability, taking one of the stealth card. We're taking a stealth card, swapping it in. The best card to swap it in on top of is like an Isolate. If they have an arsenal, you throw Isolate in front of them. They can only block with 1 card. Then you activate her reaction to banish the Command and Conquer. Then if the opponent passes their reaction and does not react to Uzuri's reaction, then once you put Command and Conquer on the combat chain, bye bye goes their arsenal. They can no longer react to it. There is a stealth card that you could run, which is Backstab, which tells your opponent they can't play D-reacts. So that you can do Backstab into Command and Conquer. If that's a card that you want to replace in here, you can definitely do that if you want to have that combo. I do like that combo, the blue Backstab into Command and Conquer. It just says no D-reacts, that's all it is. But yeah, Command and Conquer, and then obviously E-Strike. We don't use draw card a lot. The thing about Uzuri is that Uzuri doesn't have great arsenal targets, right? Like there's not a lot. Like you don't really want to arsenal your Surgical Extraction. You don't want to arsenal your Shakedown, things like that. So with Enlightened Strike, you're not going to use, you're definitely really rarely ever going to use the draw card for her. I think New definitely has more of an ability to play a better Arsenal game than her, but most of the time we do E Strike for 7, or we do E Strike Go Again if we're going to be playing on like a 3 or 4 card hand and, you know, doing some shenanigans that way. Death Touch, one of my favorite assassin cards. It's a 1 for 6. You just can't play it from your hand. But that's why we play Uzuri. We play Uzuri because we can swap this in. We take one of the stealth cards off the combat chain and we swap in the Death Touch. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And then with Death Touch hits, we get to give them a Frailty, Inertia, or Blood Rot token. This just means that depending on what matchup you're playing against, you pick one of the tokens that is more beneficial. Most of the time, I want to say 80% of the time, you're going to go for Blood Rot Pox because you just, you want to definitely force in damage. But depending on the deck you're playing against, Frailty can be decent. Like against an Assassin Mirror match, playing Frailty in an Assassin Mirror match means that they can't throw their daggers at you. Against Dash, it hurts their ability, it hurts their ability to really shoot you with the gun because the gun's just going to shoot you for 1. You can do an Inertia token, like against Azalea. You can do Inertia to force them to stay off of an arsenal. But at that point, what I learned from playing one of our local pro players here is that Inertia is kind of a gamble in some situations, because if they do dominate an arrow and hit you with like a premeditate, then they get the Ponder token. They're going to just resolve Inertia, then resolve Ponder, and then still get their arsenal. So Inertia is kind of the one that you definitely call the least out of the two. But again, that just takes experience and kind of like situational decision making. But most of the time, like I said, you're going to go for Blood Rot Pox just for some added damage on them. But this is also a fantastic card to Arsenal. It's one of my favorite Arsenal targets for Uzuri as well. So if I don't actually swap this in, I definitely look to just save this, toss this in Arsenal. And then playing this card off of a Tunic is great. Having this card come off of a Codex as a Codex target is fantastic if Leave No Witness or Command and Conquer, can't be the play or isn't the play. Death Touch is still just a fantastic card where you can just go dagger, float, pitch blue, dagger, float 1, Death Touch, outstanding. For our stealth cards, we're playing Red Infect. Red Infect is just always just a solid card. There is argument where you can definitely cut this, and this is something that this is a slot in the deck that I definitely want to experiment a little bit more around with. Maybe take this out and probably find some other type of replacement card, something else to it. But for right now, the Red Infect is fine. It's the worst Codex target, but it's still something that you can do if your graveyard is not really getting set up, or you have someone banishing stuff, whatever it is. But it's stealth. You can swap it off the combat chain, but if it does hit, it gives your opponent a Blood Rot Pox. So effectively, it goes from it turns a 0 for 3 into a 0 for 5. Plus, it blocks for 3. So I just I like Red Infect. I think it's one of the better stealth cards to play. Justin Nick, obviously Justin Nick is a fantastic card. We play a ton of blue stealth cards now, so Justin Nick is a good card that we definitely look to Arsenal, and it kind of changes up our plays. A lot of the times I look to try to line up Justin Nick with Bonds of Agony or Persuasive Prognosis. Either one of these Justin Nick just works very well with, and I'll talk more about Bonds of Agony when I get to it in this deck, because obviously New definitely uses the card a bit better, but Uzuri definitely has ways she can use it too. Justin Nick is also just fantastic with just turning that attack into something great. And like I said, it turns an attack with 1 or less base into just a massive hit, and it can be a surprise for 6. Like for instance, if you have this arsenaled and you just throw a stealth card out from your hand, like you block 9, you throw a Persuasive Prognosis from hand, or like an Isolate Bond, whatever else it is, then your opponent probably will no block that or block 3 on that. You flip Justin Nick. Oof, now you got a lot of value out of your turn. Leave No Witness, arguably my favorite attack in the game. Blows up an arsenal, makes you some silver. If you banish a red card, so you banish the top of their deck and their arsenal, you'll get a a silver or two. Again, we're going to utilize that silver to buy back your Black Tech Whisperers and, continue to get that value of 1 block and threaten an attack reaction if we do hit. Shakedown, her specialization card. I love this card so much. When you swap it in off of her ability, again, and you can swap in this too, but when you swap this in off of her ability, if it hits, then you basically pick a color, and picking a color obviously requires deck knowledge. Like if you're playing Bolton, you're gonna obviously call yellow. If you're playing Aurora, you can either call yellow if you want to hit Arc Lightning. You can choose red, that might hit a card in their hand there. But you pick a color, you choose it, they reveal it, and then you banish it. So just depending on what deck you're playing against, you'll know probably what the best color is. Usually you want to call out a color where it's like you want to hit their resources. So maybe like against Brute, you want to either hit blue to hit a resource card because they want to pitch their blue for something like that, or you want to call yellow if you're anticipating that that they are holding a Blood Rush Bellow in their hand or something like that. Just for those are just for just examples of that. If you're playing against New or Enigma, you want to call blue because they run like 30 plus blues in their deck. So yeah, fantastic card. And again, it blocks for 3. And if you'll notice, outside of Death Touch, all these block for 3. So there's that. I put Sigil of Solace back into the deck. Sigil of Solace kind of felt like it's had a resurgence now during this Rosetta meta. Obviously with Verdant, she can use it to heal and do heal combos. We saw it with, Enigma and CYB. That healing, it provides a nice buffer for you. Sometimes that health buffer just definitely helps. It's a good card to Arsenal to fake out the Command and Conquer as well, where you could probably like block. You can no block a CNC. It hits. When they throw CNC, you could just, play Sigil Solace as an instant, gain 3, take 6, so you're only taking 3 effectively from that turn, and it clears your arsenal. So Sigil Solace, I just found is good. It helps you play a little bit of a longer game, especially for a hero like Assassin, where we have a lot of 3 blocks in the deck, but our armor doesn't really block for too much. So I like Sigil Solace. Codex of Frailty, arguably my favorite card in the entire game. I definitely want to work on getting the Marvels. Like one of my goals for the end of this year is to have 3 Marvel Codex of Frailty. I think it's the most gorgeous card in the game. And then one day I want to get them signed by the artist. But other than that, yeah, Codex of Frailty, one of the most powerful cards in Flesh and Blood. I really hope that they don't touch it during the November 11th restriction list. I don't think they will, but Codex is just really strong. There's so many plays in this deck you can make it, but most importantly, Sphindel, Spring Tunic, and Codex of Frailty, they are just like best friends. If you pitch a blue, if your tuning's on 3, you pitch a blue, throw Dagger, throw Codex of Frailty, grab Command and Conquer, pay off Tunic, get 2 resources, throw CNC, classic Assassin staple, bread and butter play right then and there. But Codex just makes a lot of plays. Give them a Fred token, you get the Ponder token. Depending on what you draw off of this, it could be a great arsenal. Most of your reds anyways, outside of like Shakedown, most of your reds are good arsenals. Even Command and Conquer, I wouldn't say is a bad arsenal. It's just one of those where you want to make sure you have one of your yellows or one of your blues. You kind of want to save that and probably just throw like a face-up CNC. A face-up CNC, generally is always pretty good. So we're playing 3 copies of Yellow Isolate. We also have Blue Isolate in the deck too. It's Stealth, it's Dominate. This is the block evasion that I was talking about. When you throw these out here, it tells your opponent that you can only block with 1 card from your hand. This helps you cheat in your Command and Conquer. It helps you cheat in Leave No Witness, Shakedown. It even helps you cheat in Bonds of Agony, where it forces your opponent to only block 1 card. So unless they have a D-React, all you're doing is grabbing a card from their hand. Maybe you're grabbing some cards for the armor, but being able to force, really control their ability to block can be very key in a lot of different situations. So definitely I definitely play card. There is a red isolate, but I took that out the deck in order for it to play just to Nick. I just didn't feel like you needed to have the rainbow isolate anymore. But that is an option if you would like to do that. Yellow shred, it shreds 3. 3 is like the on rate block, and it's a yellow pitch too, so it definitely goes towards your dagger. It shreds an on rate block. The key way that you want to use shreds is you want to be patient. You want to be patient with your shreds. Like, for instance, you have a shred, you might be holding a shred. It used to be shred in Arsenal is bad, but if you're kind of smart and you kind of know what your opponent's doing, you're playing with it, it's not really that bad. You just kind of want to wait. Let's just say you throw a death touch at them. Like, let's just say a death touch from Arsenal, face up. All right, cool. If your opponent, you'll wait till your opponent blocks. If they block 6, go ahead and throw your shred down. Now you force them to have a D-react. That means you're grabbing 3, it means you're effectively grabbing 3 cards to them. But let's say that you have Infect, right? And you throw down an Infect, and then you throw down, then you swap it into like a shakedown, right? All right, you want that shakedown to hit, but then they only block 3 on your Infect. Well, if they only block 3 on your Infect, then the opponent knows that you're swapping in one of your 2 for 6 cards. So you swap in the shakedown. Now you wait. Now you see what they do. If they don't play a D-react and they just take the damage, don't play the shred unless you're shredding for more damage points. In the game, you don't want to use the shred. You want to use the shred to punish your opponent for covering it up. So you wait. If they throw that D-react down, go ahead and shred it. Wait for them to play the D-react, shred the D-react. Now there's that. Now, if you're swapping in something like a Command and Conquer, for example, right? This is an assassin card, so you can't play shred on that. But let's just say you throw out a persuasive prognosis, and they give you and they block for 6 on that because they're going to anticipate a swap. Well, you're going to go ahead and shred on that, and then use Uzuri's attack reaction to banish the Command and Conquer. Again, if they do play the D-react before your Command and Conquer hits the combat chain, then you're in a position where, hey, I'm ripping 3 cards. I'm going to be ripping 3 cards out of your hand. It's good. Plus, if they put temper equipment in front of you and you have shred, you can shred their temper equipment, and then their temper equipment breaks. So if they put like a Apex Bone Breaker, bam, it's gone. Bonds of Agony. Bonds of Agony is a fantastic stealth card, one of the scariest stealth cards in the game. Again, you guys know what it does. If you've activated 3 more attack reactions in the chain link, it gets +3, so it turns into a 0 for 4. And then you get to look at their hand, choose a card, and you get to banish 3 copies of that card from their hand, deck, and graveyard. Now, how do we get this in? Well, one thing is we can use Uzuri's ability to cheat it in off of a stealth card. That would be considered one reaction. Next reaction, we can do Just a Nick. Next reaction, we can do Shred. Or you could use Uzuri's ability, swap it in, shred a block, and then break your black text. Or if you're feeling aggressive enough, use proc Flick Knives and throw Flick Knives. Again, it's a card most of the time you want to look to swap into something else, but if you see that without really, Flick Knives is kind of like the last priority you want to do. Same with Black Tech Whisperers, is kind of like the last 2. What you really want to do is you really want to line it up with a Shred or Just a Nick off of a Uzuri swap. If you can do like both of those and swap with Uzuri, is great. If you've already gotten your block value out of Black Tech Whisperers and you feel like you've done like Isolate into this and Bonds of Agony you feel like can hit and really can grab the tempo of your game back, then like pop Black Tech Whisperers. Even if you don't have a follow-up to it, go ahead and pop that. You'll have an easy 0 cost reaction, attack reaction for Uzuri, and then maybe like Just a Nick or Shred to hit any blocks. It's just a fantastic card all around, and your opponent really sits there and ponders and panics about how they want to block it. Persuasive Prognosis, another fantastic card. Out of this and Agony, I think Persuasive is my favorite, because when it hits a hero, you just banish the top of their deck, then you get to look at their hand and banish a card of the same color. Really good card. Your opponent is usually always going to put a card in front of this, so it's definitely a good shred. Definitely a good target to shred if you kind of have it, but it's also something where you're always going to force a block out of your opponent. So like if you have like just a Nick, and one of the cool things is you like have a 3 card, 3 or 4 card hand. You can like throw this out. Your opponent throws a card in front of it. You can just a Nick and get its ability off, gain some life, banish a card from their hand, and then like throw like a Leave No Witness or something like that, or a Codex if you like pop your Black Tech Whisperers on it, something like that. It's honestly just like it opens up a lot of plays. So if you're guaranteed to get a card from there, then you look at what you have available to you and kind of like how you can play off of that. Surgical Extraction, another fantastic assassin card. Banishes the top card of their deck, and then you get to look at their hand and banish it. Arguably one of the best disruption cards in the entire game. A great card to cheat in. It is a 2-for-4, but the value of the on hit is where you're looking at it. It's another target that you want to swap into stuff. If you have shred, you can force this to hit. A lot of the times you pitch this for you're gonna pitch this for late game, but if this is like a swap and shred target or just a swap target off of like a dominate where they only put 3 in front, and they're they may or may not put a D-react, is fine. Surgical is always just a fantastic card to throw out at your opponent. I'm playing Wither. This slot here is very interchangeable. Like I also was like putting in like Pick to Pieces in this slot. Like if you have a lot of enigmas to Pick to Pieces, the reason why I have Wither in here is just for like again, it's just a blue stealth card, 1 power. It's a cheeky on hit. You get a Frailty token. Again, with Frailty, we already talked about how Frailty stops hurts -IO with her pistol. It really actually does a lot of work in the assassin mirror match. So definitely I kind of liked going back to Wither for that reason. But if you want to just play like Pick to Pieces, or even like do the backstab CNC combo, that is definitely something that you could look to do. There's even like Blue Sedate if you want to have a chance to put an inertia token. So really this slot's flexible for what your meta is, what you expect to face and whatnot. And then going into the inventory, we already went over the equipment. Erase Face is simply there. They lose their class and talent types. It's definitely there for the Earth heroes. It's there for Viscerai. It effectively like turns off Viscerai's ability and things like that. And it's super strong. It's almost like a time walk into -IO. So this card just has a lot of uses, and again, it's a 2-for-6 that we can swap in with Uzuri's ability. We have Weakest Link, another one of the generics here. Blocks for 3. Unfortunately, Erase Face blocks for 2. But for this one, you get to look at their hand. So this is good into like Aurora, into Brute, into like Acilio, things like that. That definitely good into Enigma. It's good into New. It's good into Zen. It's just there's a lot of decks that this card is really good into. So Weakest Link, definitely one that I like. Plus, again, it blocks for 3. So those are kind of like your other 2 swap-in targets here. As far as like a Go Again package I have in here, I have Hurl, which is just a 0-for-3. I never use the ability here. To me, it's just a 0-for-3 with Go Again. It's just a turn extender. Like against Enigma, we're going to be like no blocking and trying to throw as wide of an attack as possible. So you kind of want to treat that, especially and like against Prism as well. You would definitely want to go a bit wider into them to get rid of like the War, the Angels, and just force more cards out of their hand, because we want to get rid of their stuff from the board. But a lot of times this really just comes in those matchups. and doesn't really come in a lot of other matchups, especially because it's a 2 block. But again, in matchups where you find that you need to be more the aggressor and that you want to try to go fast and pile on the damage as fast as possible, Hurl's where you want to go. Same with looking for a scrap. Looking for a scrap definitely comes in a lot more often, just like with new. It comes in a good amount of matchups because we're playing a lot of 1-cost stealth cards. So ideally, when you see your 1-cost stealth cards, like at least blocking with one of them early in the game or two, to set up you're looking for a scrap for when you draw into is fine. Sometimes you might draw you're looking for a scrap before you have a chance to block or get one of your stealth cards into the graveyard. Then in that instance, it's okay to like pitch you're looking for a scrap for like second cycle. In that case, and during second cycle, it actually becomes an extremely strong card, especially if you play it off of like a tunic resource. We got our shred in here because why not shred more? This like shreds for 4. You could run blue shred if you wanted to as well, but I like the red shred. It completely shreds a D-react. It's just a big shred. It's a huge shred. And so there are, again, in matchups where your opponent is looking to block you out, block you heavy, shred is fantastic for that. Red shred is also really good if they try to overblock you on agony, and red shred can reduce 4 and really help sneak in that agony damage. And then we play Fate Foreseen and Sink Below. They are just your generic D-reacts. I know people are saying that Sink Below and Fate Foreseen, they want to see them on the restriction list as well. Maybe. And then to round everything off, we have Spreading Plague. It's one of the cards I really like with Assassin. Again, against decks that like to block you, or you find are blocking you out, like they're putting 2 cards in front of you, maybe 3 cards in front of you, you can, if you can just like Tunic Tick, get a resource, throw Spreading Plague out, or you do Dagger into Stealth Swap. They put 2 cards in front, your attack's getting fully blocked out. Well, then instead of using your 2 for 6 because they put 6 out in front, you can be like, all right, well, I'll pitch that for Spreading Plague, and then they get 2 Blood Rot tokens. So not only did you pitch something, you pitched a nice red 2 for 6 card that you could swap in for second cycle, but now you've also given them, you punished them with giving them 2 Blood Rot tokens. So then they gave up 2 cards on their turn. You're threatening 4 cards you're threatening 4 damage at the end of their turn, going into your turn, which they would need to pitch a blue into. It's just, overall a really good card. I was playing it at 3, but I wanted to make room for I need to make room for some Sigil of Solaces, so I had to make a few cuts here, and cutting this down to 2 was one of those. But that's the deck profile, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, Uzuri is one of my favorite assassins. I really like it. The deck's really clean. Right now I have a 48 card main board, so when you're playing, if you're looking to board in a clean 60, all you got to do is board in 12 cards. A lot of times with the Uzuri, sometimes you do end up going over 60 cards, but that's fine. We're built for the long game as well. We're a good mid-range deck, but we're also built for playing the long game. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. If you have any things that you're playing in your Uzuri deck, or things that I should also consider playing. Like, I have a big maybe board here. Codex of Blood Rot is always an option. I used to play Nimbalism during the Dromai days. Already Dead is a card I have a love-hate relationship with. Frailty Trap, with the whole Go Again thing is a consideration, especially if the Fate Foreseen Sink Below do get hit. Inertia Trap is good, especially in a meta with Brutes, where a lot of times Brutes do want to arsenal their Blood Rush Bellow and play Blood Rush Bellow on a 5-card hand. Inertia Trap can kind of shut that down. So it's just a interesting thing. But yeah, if you guys enjoy the deck, let me know. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, and I will have some more videos for you coming out later this week. All right, peace out.